So here we have it, our very basic shadow shapes down. And you can kind of get a rough idea as to what this drawing is going to look like. Now, since I already have this down, now I can go deeper in with the shading. I think I might have separated this video. I probably did at this point. I probably did. I always like to start off on the right side of my drawing. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but the first round of me shading was going this way with my pencil. And now I'm going in a different direction, so my strokes are intersecting. And that helps create more of a smoother value gradation. Your shading looks a lot smoother. You don't see those lines that you usually see. I also don't utilize HB, B, H pencils too much, but you could definitely have a lot easier of a time getting those dark values with a nice B pencil. And if you have an issue with pressure, those H pencils can really come in handy for putting down light values. But for me, I really do like just the standard HB, just a good middleman. You know, you can get some decent light values with a careful hand. Now, usually when I'm drawing, I always flip my paper. That's why you guys have been seeing my hand move around like that, because there's a certain direction that my hand likes to shade. So as I'm shading my bell pepper here, I'm looking at my picture, checking to see where those dark values are sitting at, and then checking to see where my core shadow is, where my reflected light is. And if these are words that you're not entirely sure of, definitely Google them. I think maybe I'll make a video going more into what those are, what they mean. For now, I want to focus on the techniques that I'm using here. So here, I'm deciding on how dark I want to make this area. Because at the moment I'm somewhat torn between the values that I want to use. So that just might be an area that I come back to. If you're unsure about certain areas, totally okay to jump around. Totally okay to jump around. Because I'm a lot more confident as to what types of values go up here And once I have these values in, it'll be a lot easier for me to decide what to do with the areas that I'm unsure about. So what I'm doing is I'm comparing how dark certain places are according to my picture. And I'm using a combination of my own knowledge of this object as well as looking at what I'm doing. This is definitely going to be split into 2 videos. That's okay. That's all right. So I see a nice core shadow going on, coming around this bend here. Going right up into the top of that bell pepper. Some real nice shadows coming through along this way. And again, I'm thinking about the contours as well. Really thinking about those contours. Lots of layers, lots of layers. I'm not pushing particularly hard with my pencil. There's this very interesting transition period here where the shading underneath the bell pepper here, right, the values are a lot darker in the shadow. But when you come behind this piece of garlic, you notice that the bell pepper is darker than the shadow. Now, while the values might be the same in the bell pepper on both sides, I'm going to exaggerate that value change, that value shift. And I might go back with a kneaded eraser to lighten it up a little bit, but for the most part I want to really exaggerate that difference as well. This garlic, go ahead and add some light shading into their this light area here. For the most part I want to keep this somewhat darkened. I'm going to keep this right side right here pretty light. And we are slowly moving and progressing. You might not even be able to hear me if I speed up the video. Looking for a nice hard edge right there between the bell pepper and the bottom. Now, these reflections can be kind of intimidating. Don't let them intimidate you. Have fun with it, right? One thing I always keep in mind is that no one's going to have this picture in their mind. if they happen to look at my drawing, right? No one's gonna be like, I know this bell pepper picture. You shaded this wrong. No, this area seems a little too off. Now, for the most part, no one is going to have any idea of the picture that you're working off of, unless you're working off famous pieces of artwork, maybe destinations. But for the most part, no one can say anything about how you shaded it, because they can't see it. No one can see what you're doing. So don't be afraid about doing something right, or doing something wrong. Just do it. And trust that you'll get better the more you do it. Because I can promise you that you will. You guys are going to see me kind of jumping around this piece a lot, because the more values that I put in, the more I notice areas in other places that need some extra work. But I really like how this garlic's looking, especially right next to this bell pepper here. That reflected light can be difficult, and I'm thinking of pushing this area right here a little bit darker compared to the reflected light that I have. And I think a big reason is because of this garlic. Right? I think this area is especially dark because reflected light comes from light bouncing off of a table back onto your bell pepper. But the issue here is that we don't just have a table here. We have this piece of garlic. And that garlic is getting in the way of your reflected light. That's a lot of fun. Having a little bit of that dark area can help kind of inform the viewer how reflective this bell pepper is. Bell peppers can be pretty reflective. So that's something that you want to keep in mind when it comes to the objects that you're shading. Is what type of texture do you want on your object? We're getting to the we're getting to a point here where either I'm going to be leaving my shadow shapes pretty soon to start putting in some of the values in my lit area here. And this is where drawing at this angle is kind of difficult. So I apologize if my flipping is going off the camera, or you know what I'm trying to say here. And I'll try to keep this on screen as well as I can. Now, the thing about this bell pepper is that it's so reflective. So I'm really keeping in mind these highlights that we have here. There's a lot of subtle shades that I need to be adding, especially around these highlights, and especially since it's so curved. You know, a bell pepper has a lot of interesting curves here. So I'm thinking about the shape, right? If there's an area that seems round, I'm thinking of, man, how would I shade a ball? I'd shade a ball like this. I see that the reflection is on almost like the middle part. middle portion of this. And you know what? You might have areas where your shadow shapes and your light areas blend, kind of almost blend together, and that's okay. Let it happen. At this point, I'm using somewhat a combination of contour lines along with shaded blending techniques. And around here, that's where my highlight begins to turn more into value. I just reached this area right here. It's going to be very dark. Right under the cap. You know what? Admittedly, I think I might be going a little bit too detailed with this too, but that's what happens sometimes, you know, with this type of shading technique. It's very easy to get caught up in going all in. A lot of different values going on inside this bell pepper. Lots and lots and lots. Lots of different value changes. I really want to darken up this area because I feel like it's a core shadow. I feel pretty good about that. It feels pretty nice. I'm going to leave this garlic white here. It's going to be a really nice area to kind of break up what I'm doing. That's what I'm trying to do. Again, shading very, very lightly along the contours. I wish I had that H pencil. Hope my hair is not in the way. And I can definitely go in a lot deeper with these values. But that's not necessarily the goal. In fact, I'm probably going to be going back to erase some of these values here. About 10 minutes left, so I definitely know I went over in terms of how I'm doing this. Drawing's just too fun. Even with a very simple bell pepper like this, I just enjoy myself too much. It's definitely a time for me to sit back and enjoy. this area where darkness is kind of blending in with the light area. This is a really good example right here of a core shadow versus the reflected light. Top of this stem is going to be that core shadow. I'm going to keep that bottom part of the stem more or less the same value that I already have it at right now. In fact, it might get a little bit darker right here. Try to blend that in. For the most part, you want to keep that kind of light. This bell pepper's feeling a lot better. We're getting relatively close to complete. Really take your time when you're doing this. I feel like I'm being a little rushed right here. So I'm being a little bit sloppier with things, but you know, I really want to stay focused. To what I'm trying to do. Stay focused with my technique, with my craft. That's one thing that I enjoy about art is that kind of gives you almost this time to think. If you're not thinking about what you're shading and what you're doing, you can have a short amount of time to think about what you want to get done in the day, how you've been, kind of getting in touch with yourself. You know, a lot of people find activities that they can do that with, such as yoga, meditation. And I very much think that drawing is a form of thoughtfulness and mindfulness with yourself, the world. It's not very often that we can have moments like that, so really treasure times that you have with drawing. It's limited. It's limited. Can only get so many drawings done in our lifetime. There's a number. There's a number attached to how many drawings you can get done in life. And you want to make the most out of that number. You want to make sure that the drawings that you do get done are drawings that you're very proud to say are yours. Drawings that you spent a lot of hard time and work on. Hopefully drawings that helped you realize certain things about life and how you're doing. At the end of the day, the best piece of advice that I can always give: draw what you like. Draw what you like. And if you can't particularly get something the way you want it, find out why not. Learn. Learn how to draw what you like. Here we're closing up on finishing our bell pepper here. And I do want to push these dark values a lot more. Push in some hard edges here and there. Definitely my favorite part of this drawing is going to have to be the left side. The left side of this bell pepper. It was the area I was able to spend the most time in because, you know, just starting that video. Also, I really want to push this area a little bit right here. Really get this stem to stick out. I want this to pop. That shading, that dark value really helps. You know, don't underestimate putting in dark values. You might want to erase the shape that you made for it as well. Make it a little bit more accurate. Don't underestimate going too dark with that pencil. It is very useful. That dark value is such a useful tool if you know exactly where to put it. And if you don't know exactly where to put it somewhere. If it doesn't work out, ask yourself why. Why did this not work out? Keep it in mind next time you shade. You'll get better. This is nice though. I haven't shaded an object in a very long time. The less you do something, the harder it is to get back into it. All right, the last detail that I want to throw in here is a little bit of kneaded eraser action. And if you're not sure what a kneaded eraser is, it's this thing. In fact, I'm going to break this in half. A kneaded eraser is great for lifting up values in certain areas. So I'm definitely going to be lifting up values near my highlights. In the cast shadow back here a little bit. And this is how you use it. You want to dab it on. If you want to lighten up values, say back here. If you want to give some soft edges to your highlights. Just another tool to help refine your drawing. you know what? I'm pretty satisfied with that. I don't need to overwork it, you know. For the most part, the main idea was the value block in, so. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully that it filmed all right. Fingers crossed. Have a good day.